would like to ask Maarten de Groot from the Slovenian Forestry Institute to come forward with your presentation, and please explain us a little bit what you are working
on. Thank you very much. Just one question. Does everyone see my presentation?
Yes, it's perfect.
We can see it in the presenters mode. You can start it.
Aha, okay, good. Then I have to find still. Do you see it? Because I don't see it. It's really annoying.
Yes, we see it, but you might want to move into the presenters mode still.
Okay, now everyone sees it.
Now we see your presenters mode.
You have the display settings.
Wait a second, it's always the thing I'm...
Yeah, you'd have to change it in the PowerPoint. You have to change the setting of the presenters mode.
So
take your time.
So now you see this.
Yes, now it's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Maarten de Groot, and with a whole team of people from Slovenia, we had the project Live Artemis, which was regarding awareness raising, training, and measures on invasive alien species in forests. And on this, in this meeting, I will just focus mainly on citizen science and what are actually the challenges and how can you actually deal with these challenges. So I will first start, like, I don't know if anyone is knows about citizen science, but citizen science is scientific research conducted in whole or in part by amateurs or non-professional scientists. This is not only to do with, for instance, invasive alien species, but it can be a whole range of science. So also for astrology, astronomy, sorry. For butterfly research, for meteorology, there are all potentials for citizens to help with the science. And we, in our project, we also included a citizen science aspect. So this is the main part. What we this was one of the main parts of our project. Our project was live, as I said already, Live Artemis. The goal of the project was to contribute to the reduction of harmful impacts of invasive alien species in forests by increasing awareness and setting up an effective early warning and rapid response framework. So we only focused really in forests in Slovenia, which is already really a large amount of forests. Slovenia is on the sunny sides of the Alps. Many of you know it already. It has 1.2 million hectares of forest, which is actually 58% of the whole land cover of Slovenia. So this makes it the third country, most forested country in Europe. It has a lot of different types of owners. The private forest is 75%. State forest is only 22%. And as you can see, it's almost more than 460,000 forest owners, which makes management actually overall Slovenia regarding alien invasive species quite difficult on one hand, but having that said, these are also stakeholders which are concerned about their forests. So with many invasive alien species which are actually affecting the forests, they are actually in their own interest to deal with it. So they are potential citizen scientists who can help finding new invasive alien species. So we are working here. Our project started actually working with different alien invasive species. So we're focused mainly on insects, plants, mammals, and fungi. Our focus was, as I said already, was on in Slovenia with many different pathways. First of all, it's of course natural dispersal from Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia, but we also have the ports where different invasive alien species are transported through, and the large distributional center in Ljubljana, and of course also our airport in Brdo. Focusing on a management of species, if we want to do something against it, is we have to focus on the on the dynamics of invasions. So invasion starts actually, there is no species is yet there. Then it's introduced one or two individuals, but from that it starts to establish and slowly spread till the moment that it's completely everywhere abundant. So there's only, let's say, a small percentage of species which are actually really problematic. The rest stays in low abundances, or are not even don't even manage to establish. So invasions to mostly affect avoid invasions is to search for them in an as early stage as possible. So, but the problem here is that it's not easy to notice, but it's easy to fight. And therefore we need a lot of eyes in the field. So we cannot rely only on experts, because there are only so many experts going into the field. And already from last experience from few decades, we can see that citizen scientists brought a lot of knowledge to the experts, coming with a beetle, and you find out it's an invasive, potential invasive alien species coming into your forest. In Europe, actually, only two legislations are dealing with on invasive alien species. So the EU plant health legislation and the EU invasive alien species legislation. And these are legislations we have to take care, and both of them actually are focusing on, or also focusing on, early warning and rapid response. So therefore we went, we prepared this project, and I will tell you what steps we used to get to the end of, to make it a successful project. So we started with preparing an alert list, because you cannot go only to the whole, to take all invasive alien species into account. You have to focus. If you don't focus, yeah, then it's looking for a needle in a haystack. Species for citizen scientists should be easily recognizable. We therefore that's one thing. Although we also did a kind of horizon scan and see which species can come to Slovenia. Therefore, in the beginning of the project, we started with 61 plant species, 26 insect species, and 20 fungi species, and 1 Phytophthora species. We prepared an alert list. That's a list of species which are not yet in Slovenia, but we were looking or species which had a small population and could still be eradicated. Beside that, we made an observation list. So we would have people would still have something to do, because if you're looking at the species which are actually, we hope we don't have in Slovenia, you don't have a lot of data, or people won't have any motivation anymore because they cannot find anything. But also from our side, it's good to see that that they were there, they looked for species, and but they didn't find also additional deep species from the alert list. And a good result is also that we get somehow an overview of other species occurring in Slovenia. So challenges for this part was there was not a publicly available list of alien species for Slovenian forests, so we had to do it all ourselves. And also the horizon scans for the species for the alert list we had to do. And one of the main questions was actually what species should be included for the citizen scientists. That were mainly species actually which were relatively easily to recognize. And the other species, this would be more focused for real experts who are going into the field. Although it's always good if scientists, when they see, let's say, a damaged tree, that they could come to the expert and say like, okay, we found a damaged tree with certain characteristics, please have a look at it. So we also had such cases like that, and that we had to check. The second step was actually an awareness raising campaign and education of different people, especially also professionals. We had a lot of workshops which focused on nature conservation experts, but also on foresters, forest-related businesses, and also volunteers, of course. We prepared a system where they could put their data in, and there they could also present their, this was also presented how that's working. And of course, several excursions where they present their thing, where we can show for certain species. Then of course, we also prepared a field guide with good description. And we had, of course, over here we had also several challenges. There were certain stakeholders which were not attending or very, very difficult to persuade to collaborate. And a lot of effort was done in awareness raising and education. And I think this is the main point actually of where the citizen science project will fail or will be very successful, in the amount of effort you actually put into awareness raising and education. And the third step was preparing an information system. And this is a system, maybe people from the ALPTREES project already know about inaturalist. Now we prepared our own information system called Invasilka. And we had a web application and an application for the mobile telephone. And I have to say, it is a good investment if you want to start such a citizen science data project, that you are preparing also a mobile application, because most of our data came through this mobile application. If we look at the data coming out of this from the citizen scientists, from our field, we got 267 participants, and actually for our time we had really a lot of observations. I think it's 12,280 observations. But if we look very careful to the distribution for the participants, it's like that certain people were really putting a lot of data in, and certain people only gave only gave one data or a few data points into the database. But every data point, of course, is very helpful. Another problem is if you look at the area where people are going. If we had one species-specific action on Corituca arcuata, a new invader for oaks. It's called the oak lacebuck. And actually, after analysis, we found that if you look over here at this, at the left peak, these are the citizen science data, and the dark peak is actually the random plot over whole Slovenia. And we see that the distance to the local road is actually quite short. People are only going to accessible areas and do not go that much into non-accessible areas. So this is a kind of constraint of citizen science. So they are going to areas which are more accessible. Luckily for us, many of the species are also first introduced in this type of area. So therefore, it is very important also to include citizen science if we're working on invasive alien species. So short challenges, how to keep the people active. That wasn't very much a problem. There are only few very active, but many only put a few data in. Certain taxa are more popular than others, and Slovenia is not equally covered. And of course, how do we know that alert list species are not there if there are no observations? For these white spots, actually, experts should check these areas. We had different case studies in this project. One of the case studies was on species-specific action, and one was site-specific action. The species-specific action was on a fungus called Eutypella parasitica, which is causing canker of maple. We made a lot of awareness raising around, and we got at the end a lot of good information, and on basis of that information and locations, we went there and cut the trees. So with this project, we actually this case study, we got a nice output that citizen scientists helped actually to mitigate a nice species which are actually quite common here in Slovenia. However, challenges is that this species was actually a very unknown species and actually very difficult to recognize by the general public. So therefore, we had to put a lot of awareness raising and teaching, making workshops. Second part was the area-specific action. So we went into Ljubljana in the landscape park Tivoli, Rožnik, and Šiškenski Hrib. Whoever went to Ljubljana probably knows it already. It's one of this. If you come to Ljubljana, please go there. It's really beautiful, and it's close to the city center. We first went to go into the area. We started to make an inventory of invasive plant species. And on basis of this inventory, which was of course done by citizen scientists, we prioritized which species was most important to eradicate. So the species which have had a high potential to become invasive and were still in low numbers in there. And for the coming the years after that, we went into the field and did repeatedly had some eradication actions. And I hope that most of them were eradicated, but of course this year I will eagerly still go there and see whether we were really successful. Challenges to work with citizen scientists in such a species area-specific action and regarding eradication is that there was increasing knowledge for species which will be monitored. So people, during the process we saw like, oh, oops, they're also over there. There are some individuals which we have to check, and how actually persistent they are. And if we had only a few observations in one area, it turned out actually that there was a whole bunch of these tree bushes or plants were over there. So it was much more work as we anticipated once in a while. Another problem was actually attracting volunteers for the eradication actions. And this is we tried in several ways, but in the end, we found volunteers which were coming every year, and this was really nice, and especially via certain green NGOs. They are very active and helping us, or helping for the good cause. Another thing is like finding out eradication methods. So one of the best way how you can do something, certain things, is using pesticides or herbicides. But let's say working in an area like that, which was actually anyway protected, and you could not use this for where you can't use chemical herbicides, just the herbicides. And of course, with citizen scientists who are not used to work with herbicides in such large quantities, we needed to go to more mechanical methods. And these mechanical methods also had some constraints. A lot of people were elder, so they could not do the heavy work. Luckily, we also had some very brave students who were helping us, and they could help us with some cutting. So lessons learned from this project is that actually the system we developed of an early warning and rapid response system in live Artemis actually worked. Many alert list species were reported, which is actually kind of course, a pity, because you hope you will not find it. The problem is that many participants had only a few records, but already we were very happy that there are so many participants or citizen scientists actually went into the field and reported this the species. One of the focus, I think, also is like there are few which are very active, and these are also the ones which have the most important species. So you should kind of cherish these people who are very active. It's like, okay, collaborate with them, because in the end of the project, certain people had accumulated so much knowledge also about this species that somehow the experts actually had to look, and they knew, it's like, okay, that citizen scientist knows their species. So that's really, really good feeling. Another thing is that investing a lot of time in awareness raising and education, this is really important. And if you're going certain small projects that people are not getting lost in the whole list of species, it's a nice way to focus, to extract a lot of information, and people get more, you can get more focused, and people get more information from this species. We have to, of course, know that certain taxa are more popular than others. That's just life, and we have to find other solutions. That citizen science is not the solution; it's just an addition in the whole system to find these species, alien species in forests. So that's also the last part. It's not equally covered. we as an expert, or you ask the citizen scientists to go a little bit further. Anyway, another thing was that citizen scientists data were not going, they were not going all high in the mountains. In Slovenia, we have a lot of tourists going into the mountain, and maybe we have to just find the good group which are going into the mountains so that they can have a look for this species. So this is the final slide. I thought I had a lot of things to tell. I hope that you understood everything, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Maarten, for this wonderful presentation and for the opportunity to learn from your project, that you pictured the challenges that a citizen science project can face. It was extremely helpful. We have a short question, as we are quite advanced in time, in the chat, how you deal with the data control. Are there some quality control measures when you have when you work with the citizen science data in your project?
We have our data. We get photos from the citizen scientists in our system in Vasilka, and there are administrators in the background who are actually who are working on the identification. So they will say like, if this is true or this is not this correct species.
Well, thank you very much. The tricks how you motivate people to use the app was actually very useful. Another question is on what is the main motivation of the citizens to participate in the citizen science activity?
That depends. I mean, sometimes, let's say in our case, it's like people know that invasive species are a threat and they want to help in regarding nature conservation. They also know that it might be that their own property will be affected. So this could also be a reason to help.